I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor.
Very, very rocky.
Death by government.
Drain the swamp.
Hello and welcome to another installment of Liberty Nation's Swamponomics videocast. I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor. This week, QE is dead. Long live QE. Bloomberg released the results of a new survey it conducted with economists worldwide. The summary? Economists believe central banks will not be so quick to unleash quantitative easing on the economy, which is a blend of slashing interest rates and buying government or corporate bonds. They also think that central banks will not destroy their economies in order to vanquish inflation. Finally, economists argue that monetary policymakers' work will be threatened by fiscal recklessness. In other words, the monetary authorities will be more responsible in the future. This is the point where everyone throws their heads back and laughs. Ha ha ha! Since the beginning of the 21st century, the US economy has become addicted to easy money. For the last 15 years, when the Federal Reserve first launched its round of quantitative easing, interest rates have been mostly below 2%. Even today, when the Eccles Building has raised rates to above 5%, the real inflation-adjusted rate is still about 1%. When the Fed launched QE4 at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, bringing the benchmark fund rates to near zero, investors were overjoyed, and the financial markets accelerated to record highs, despite a shutdown economy, million dead, and many out of work. It was a remarkable turn of events for the New York Stock Exchange. Of course, multiple bubbles formed, and digital images of monkeys were selling for $1 million. The broader public also benefited. According to the Fed's recent survey of consumer finances, household net worth soared by 37%, fueled by pandemic-era government stimulus, stock gains, and housing appreciation. How did this happen? Easy money. Businesses typically dislike higher interest rates because it means higher borrowing costs, which prevents companies from expanding operations or lowering their debt servicing costs. While the Fed is near the peak of its tightening campaign, the central bank's summary of economic projections suggests officials could cut interest rates by 50 basis points later next year, which is actually also down from the previous 100 basis points. This expectation almost suggests that lower interest rates need to be the new normal. The best way to determine the real interest rate is to let the market decide, but we cannot have that because the world's largest economy has the smartest men and women inside the Federal Open Market Committee to arbitrarily determine interest rates. That said, a plethora of studies, government and private sector, highlight a consumer on the brink. Corporate bankruptcies are on the rise. Washington is facing $1 trillion interest payments and a skyrocketing national debt. Investors want to see the stock market roaring again rather than seeing 5% treasury yields. Suffice it to say, it is unlikely that the Federal Reserve and other central banks would ever conceive of abandoning quantitative easing. The only hurdle that the Jerome Powell and company would have to overcome is the current situation, and that is the $8 trillion balance sheet. But the balance sheet is not something that dominates the news headlines or is at the top of mind of monetary policymakers. Whether another recession or financial crisis, you can guarantee that the Federal Reserve will fire off another round of quantitative easing. Why else would you have a money printer? That's it from this week. Please read my full Swamponomics column on the pages of libertynation.com and be sure to check out my previous Swamponomics TV episodes. Thank you. I'm Andrew Moran, Liberty Nation's economics editor.
Very, very rocky.
Death by government.
Drain the swamp.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.